just because it is a little sketchy through here. This is where it gets a little washboardy, so I do expect the traction control light to kick on at some point, as it actually did when we came through here the first time. I believe it was actually on this corner that it kicked on the first time. Yep, it's kicking on right now actually, so give it a little bit more throttle. I can feel it wanting to spin. What is up, guys? Welcome back to Backroad Apex. My name is Jordan, and today we are in Mammoth Cave National Park. My very first national park trip with my wife. We're on vacation, and this is our 2020 Toyota 4Runner SR5 Premium. We're gonna be doing a bit of a drive around Mammoth Cave today. We got a really cool off-road trail we're gonna go take this on. We've actually already taken it down once, as you might be able to tell. It's pretty dirty. We did drive almost 8 hours from Atlanta to get here. And yeah, we did some off-road trails, we've done some highway stuff, we've done a lot of fun adventures in this trip and done some pretty cool cave explorations. I'm going to include some clips from that at the end of the video. I just wanted to chronicle this little bit of a last drive before we leave the park for the rest of the trip. We're heading to Bowling Green, Kentucky tomorrow. Check out the Corvette Museum, which of course is more my thing. She is an outdoorsman at heart, so this is going to be a really fun trip. Let's head on over to the trail and see if a little two-wheel drive 4Runner can do the job just fine. So 2020 was one of the last model years of these 5th gen 4Runners. This chassis debuted in 2009 with the 1GR FE V6, a 4-liter with a 5-speed automatic. It's a pretty solid situation there. I really like this powertrain. I didn't think I would, honestly. I used to own an Explorer Sport Track back in the day, which had a very similar 4-liter V6 and 5-speed automatic. Of course, Ford's 4-liter V6 is a lot more anemic than the 1GR. This makes, I think, like 278 horsepower and a little north of 300 and some change pound-feet of torque, if not more. So I'm going to hook up CarPlay just for navigation's sake, so I can figure out where we're going, because this doesn't show streets all that well. 2020 was the first year that had push-button standard across all the models. It had Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It also has Toyota Safety Sense, which I really appreciated for my wife. So we've got not blind spot, but we got what do they call this? Lane departure. We got a front braking assist that will mute the radio and blare red on the screen telling you to brake. It does have radar cruise, which I tested out for the first time. My experience with cruise control has been extremely limited. I've never really owned cars with cruise control up until my GTI almost 5 years ago. So anyway, let's hit the road. You have to do this as the crow flies because there is barely any phone service here. I know it says I have LTE on the CarPlay screen. I really don't. And there we go, entering back into the park. We've had a lot of fun on this trip. We've done a lot of exploration, a lot of fun drives. Some of these roads out here do make me miss the cars back home, but this has been an amazing trip. This is my first national park. This is her, like, I don't even know, probably like 20th or 30th. She's been here before a long time ago, but this place is really cool. It's very diverse. It's very ecological. I love it here. It's been a pretty fun trip. I was worried I'd be too claustrophobic in the caves, and the cave, of course, being Mammoth Cave, it's absolutely huge. So yeah, it's been a really good trip, and the car is handled extremely well. This replaced a 2017 Yaris IA, which is a night and day difference in terms of the cars themselves. This is much bigger, much less fuel efficient, but probably much more reliable. The Yaris IA being mostly Mazda based, you get a lot of the Mazda 2's influence in that car, which is probably what kept it from having a CVT, so I give it huge props for that. Because Mazda really hates CVTs. But this is a lot more just bulletproof of a vehicle, and of course for road trips like this, it's a lot more comfortable and a lot more practical. We packed food in here. We've got several, probably, I don't even know, we've had a cooler in here that has kept the ice pretty close to perfect for several days in a row here. It's been a great road trip car, and I think it's a mile ahead of the Yaris in terms of a road trip vehicle. As terms of a daily driver, of course, it's much less fuel efficient, much bigger, much less maneuverable, but I think the pros have definitely outweighed the cons with this, and I think we made the right choice letting the Yaris go for this and getting something that is a little bit more fun. This does have a sunroof. We don't usually keep the shade open. Usually it's when I'm driving it by myself. But yeah, this has been a great car. So we're gonna head on down through these roads a little bit. These roads are pretty windy. Like I said, these are the kind of roads that make me miss having my GTI or my Jetta up here to kind of shred through, is what I would say if the Jetta was running properly. But yeah, this has been a great trip, and this car has been an absolute treat to own over the last month and a half. So yeah, the 1GR FE has just enough power to get out of its way, and I know that there's a big debate in the 4Runner community about this engine versus the new 2.4 turbo. I personally prefer this engine. I don't trust Toyota's forced induction engines just yet. The iForce powertrains and the new Tundras have been proven to be a bit finicky, a bit unreliable. I know it's Toyota's first real foray into more common turbocharged setup, so knowing them, probably next generation for those vehicles, they'll have all the issues wired up and it'll be an absolutely amazing chassis. But in terms of the 5th versus the 6th gen, I personally prefer the 5th gen with this powertrain, with the 1GR, with the 5-speed. Yes, the new gen with the 8-speed and the 2.4 are going to be significantly better on fuel, but I personally prefer the more old school kind of vibe this car has. It feels like a modernized 2009 car, and a lot of people are going to complain about that. I personally really like it, and that's why I like vehicles like the last gen Nissan Frontier, just because it's an old car that they kept pretty good for several years. Sure, it wasn't as nice of an interior as like the newer stuff. Personally, I think this has an excellent interior, but I know a lot of people are gonna be like, well, it doesn't have the 15-inch dash like the new gen cars do, but I don't really care. This has been, I think, for what we wanted out of a vehicle, the 1GR and this interior fits the bill perfectly. So where we're headed right now is a side street called Green River Ferry Road, which usually would lead to a ferry, but because the water level has been so low, because much like the majority of the southeastern part of the US, including our home state, it's under a pretty heavy drought. And that has kept, well, there's the sign right there saying the ferry's closed. So the ferry is completely shut down, which kind of sucks because I would have absolutely loved to have captured that in this video. But we're gonna go down anyway because there is a little bit of a dirt trail that we took this morning just to kind of test it out and see if we could handle it. And because she wanted to do some off-roading herself, which I told her, this is 90% of what other 4Runner owners won't do. So I was like, you just completely defeated the Pavement Princess allegations. We're going to do it a second time because now I want to get on the fun. So yeah, it's a fun little one-way street. So it's also pretty quiet, but from what we read online, it's very common for people who bring Jeeps, Broncos, vehicles of that nature here to drive this road. So I'm looking forward to it. And speaking of the RSIA, there's one now. So that is what we upgraded to get to this car. And yeah, I think we can safely say this is a much better vehicle. But anywho, we're gonna head on down to Joppa Ridge Road, which is the local kind of off-roady dirt road, and experience the 4Runner in its natural habitat, even with one less drive axle. I've been looking to see if this had some sort of off-road mode. It does have a mode button on the steering wheel, but I've pushed it before and never been able to figure out what it actually does. I believe it just mutes the radio or changes the mode of the radio. I assume it's multifunction based. I assume because this is a two-wheel drive 4Runner, it does not have off-road mode per se. It does have a traction control off button in the ceiling. We're not going to do that because I don't have a whole lot of experience on dirt roads either. In fact, I have much less experience than she has because, where she grew up, it was pretty common. I grew up in the city. I don't know how to drive on dirt. So I'm going to leave the nannies on for this. Like I said, there's no off-road mode, so I don't know if there is one to even toggle to make this do a little bit better. But in reality, this road isn't all that serious. It's actually pretty tame. There's one section where it gets a little washboardy, and you guys will see that, but it handled it pretty okay. All right, here we are. Joppa Ridge Road, one-way traffic. We're gonna kind of keep the speed kind of low just because I don't want to tear this thing up. So this is our second time through here today. Like I said, this is a pretty tame little dirt road. I don't expect us to run into too many problems in terms of, getting stuck or anything. I don't want that to be a famous last word, but this is like pretty rally stagey. I'm probably going a little bit too fast, but like I said, I'm not used to dirt roads. This is new for me, especially in this car. I've done it once in my GTI. I was actually on my way to propose to her when I took my GTI down a road not too dissimilar from this, and I absolutely bowled over one of these potholes about 35 miles an hour, and I'm really surprised I didn't blow out half the suspension in that car. Learned my lesson. I don't take that car down dirt roads anymore just because I have a tendency to want to be a WRC driver coming through. That's actually what my childhood dream was. Everyone's like, I want to play NBA, I want to play in the NFL. I was like, I want to be a WRC driver. That never happened, obviously. But so far, I mean, it's pretty narrow, as you can imagine. There are a lot of pretty narrow streets around here. We took this to, what was it, Park Ridge Road, I think it's called, and it was extremely narrow, and this thing was a little sketchy, but you know, it wasn't the worst thing in the world. Now it's actually a two-way street. It was only a little bit wider than this, really, but this is a designated one-way road. So I'm gonna get a little bit more throttle as we hit some of these more actual rocks in the road. I'm kind of using those to kind of give it some extra traction. I could be completely wrong on that. Like I said, I don't know off-roading. There are a few pull-offs here. I'm not entirely sure why they're here. I guess to let slower cars, you know, allow faster traffic through. Don't really know why you would need that. We hit that bump at like 15-20 miles an hour on the first trip through. It kind of hurt, but I noticed it long enough to catch it. But yeah, this road is pretty common with Jeeps and 4Runner, or not 4Runner, well, and 4Runners, Land Cruisers, FJs, I'm sure all that kind of stuff when people come through this park. But this thing is just eating it up. You know, we're getting a little bit of an incline here, so of course got to add a little bit of throttle. Yeah, this thing has been a treat, and it's awesome having a vehicle now in our stable that can do this kind of stuff, because before the Yaris couldn't do this, the GTI absolutely cannot do this, and the Jetta is just a manual transmission. And I feel like, you know, I know a lot of people will do these trails with stick shift vehicles and be fine. I can barely drive manual in the street, as you guys saw. I don't want to make that 10 times worse trying to do it on dirt. So yeah, we won't see us doing any rock crawling in this thing just because it's two-wheel drive, but something like this, I think this thing can easily handle. I mean, so far you guys can tell it's actually doing great. So on the map, you guys can see ahead there's a bit of a twisty bit, and that is where it gets a little washboardy. So that is going to be where I'm going to have to be on my toes to kind of manage this thing. But it, even being two-wheel drive, we're on all terrains. I'm not entirely sure the tire, I'll put it on screen if I remember to add that later. I'm gonna be editing this like a week after we get home, so not entirely sure when I'll get to do that. And it's handling it pretty well. I think with a leveling kit, which we plan on doing to this, as well as some more aggressive wheels and tires, it will handle this even better. But obviously, for the more aggressive rock crawling and more aggressive dirt trails, I mean, we're gonna need a four-wheel drive. So eventually I plan on getting a pickup truck for myself, and that will be when that happens. But that's not gonna be for a long while, so don't expect that to happen anytime soon, because it's not. We're perfectly happy with this thing handling the job. Fuel economy wise, we'll go over that real briefly while we're in this kind of stretch. We've been averaging about 20 miles to the gallon since we refueled, and that is from highway driving, from driving through here to doing this now twice. And since we last reset it, we've been averaging about 18 miles to the gallon. So like I said, and since started about 19. So yeah, the 1GR is absolutely awful on fuel. It's a V6 that gets V8 gas mileage, but it is an absolute tank of an engine, and it's got plenty of low end torque that I absolutely believe a turbocharged 4-cylinder can't really fully match. You know, it's better to have instantaneous torque for stuff like this. It's why I prefer vehicles like this and older Jeep Wranglers with the 4-liter straight six. One, because those cars were tended to be built a little bit better than today's JKs and JLs, but you know, they're a lot more torquey and punchy than, you know, the 3.6 and the, like the Pentastar and the modern cars. You can see we're getting into that more rough patch now. And of course, with Toyota's case, this engine is a lot more low-end punch than the 2.4 turbo that you'll find in the current gen Tacoma and 4Runner. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure it's a great engine. I absolutely want to experience one at some point. Maybe not in something like this, but you know, maybe someday we'll get a partnership with a Toyota dealership to go and drive those cars, and they can prove me wrong. So we're gonna get a bit of a run up here. Not too much, just because it is a little sketchy through here. This is where it gets a little washboardy, so I do expect the traction control light to kick on at some point, as it actually did when we came through here the first time. I believe it was actually on this corner that it kicked on the first time. Yep, it's kicking on right now, actually, so give it a little bit more throttle. I can feel it wanting to spin, but there you go. A two-wheel drive 4Runner can get through this stuff no problem. This has been a treat, and I'm really excited. I got to do a little bit of what 4Runners were built to do on camera for you guys. There you go. Proof we don't build a pavement princess around here. I say that with like we haven't even done anything to this car. This is a bone stock car, guys. If you want to see us start to modify this thing, we're going to do a little bit of stuff. We're going to keep the kind of the basic powertrain stuff completely stock. We're not doing exhaust, probably won't even do an intake on this, but we will be doing some suspension modifications and wheels and tires on it in the coming months and years. You know, check out my other channel. I'll link it in the end of this once we get off of this road. But this has been a treat. This thing has handled stuff like this with ease and has been an excellent road trip car. If you're considering buying one of these late model 5th gen 4Runners, or just a 5th gen 4Runner in general, if you don't really care about owning an older vehicle, highly recommend it. I mean, this has been an excellent car. It does everything we need and then some. And yeah, it's been an absolutely amazing car to drive on this trip. So yeah, we're nearing the end of Joppa Ridge, and this thing is handling it with ease. So yeah. Now, we actually did look at a couple other models, but this was the one that had the lowest mileage and the most features. We figured if we were going to get one, we'd focus more on the more daily experience. There was a low trim TRD off-road that was missing a lot of the features this car had, that was like a couple years old. I think it was like a 2018 or 2019 model. So didn't have all the features that she wanted. She wanted to have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. We needed both just because we have both in our house. I'm an iPhone guy, she's an Android girl. And she really wanted push button standard across the board. And I preferred 2020 models because of all the safety sense features. I wanted her to have those features. So that's why we kind of wound up passing on it. And I think that one actually sold out from underneath us. So we wound up on this car, and I think we still, minus the off-road package, got a pretty solid package out of this. I think we got, you know, a really solid car. So anyway, we're nearing the end of Joppa Ridge. We're gonna wrap this video up here. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us as we traveled through this dirt road and put the 4Runner through its paces where it really mattered, and got to watch me struggle on a dirt road for the very first time. If you want to see more POV reviews like this, stay tuned, subscribe for more. We've got a lot of stuff coming, and thank you guys for watching Backroad Apex, and we'll see you guys later.